Welcome to Novel Navigator, where every story is an adventure waiting to unfold. If you're a fan of powerful plots, unforgettable characters, and immersive narration, you've just found your new favorite destination. If you enjoy the story, please like, subscribe, and share the channel with your friends and family. Your support helps keep these stories alive and growing. This is Novel Navigator, guiding you through worlds of imagination, one chapter at a time. Reincarnation of the Strongest Healer Chapter 31. Housing Zhang Jingyi was wondering if she truly had a frightening appearance. She even touched her face multiple times and glanced at the mirror, reflecting her beauty. Why would anyone want to run from me? She asked. It can't be another one of those tricks that my family arranges and wants to get me to be curious, right? All she wanted to do was repay the favor and have a background check on the person. After all, she needed to ensure that this person wasn't some arrangement done by her family. Although she knew this could be another ploy arranged by her family in hopes of getting her to be in a relationship, she must say it was kind of working. Not the relationship part, but the curiosity part about who that man was and why he was acting so weirdly. If that man was truly acting upon her family's arrangement, then she would gladly allow him to experience a world that only women would understand. However, if it wasn't, then she needed to ask what was wrong with her that made him so afraid. As Zhang Jingyi was thinking of tracking this person down, she realized she had been lingering around for a long time and needed to escape. The two of you will erase any information regarding this, as well as the smartwatch and phone giveaway. Is that clear? Zhang Jingyi glared at them and warned sternly. Yes, Miss Zhang. Both Sandra and Elena responded almost immediately as they began to delete all files and data, as well as the security camera footage. While they were doing these things, Su Feng himself was already entering a real estate enterprise. Hello, sir. How may we be of help today? One of the working ladies greeted Su Feng and asked politely, I want to look for a house, preferably one that is close to amenities and conveniences. Su Feng replied flatly. Just earlier, he had confirmed with Gentle Wind and received advance payment. With the contract overseen by the system, he would be doomed for eternity if he failed to fulfill the condition. Thus, Gentle Wind was rather straightforward and transferred the money to him. So with her $150,000 as well as the $66,000 he made by selling some silver coins, the fund he accumulated was $216,000, enough down payment for a decent house. Naturally, Su Feng could increase the funds further, but he wouldn't jeopardize his business for momentary benefits over long-term benefits. The flow of silver coins must be strictly regulated and the market prices would be determined by him. While Su Feng was thinking about his next plan, the employee began to introduce each housing. She opened up a tablet that featured a holographic screen as she hovered around each location. Over here is a nice district and offers quite a few amenities, she said, explaining the terrain and security aspect of the location. Su Feng glanced at the location and nodded his head silently. The location was decent, but not quite the standard that he wanted. Huh, what about this one? Su Feng asked, pointing at a location that was ideal for him. Looking at the location that Su Feng had pointed at, the employee held an awkward expression. About this location, it's kind of unique. She smiled sheepishly. Unique? He raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by unique? Was there a murder here, or did someone commit suicide in this house? The employee was subsequently speechless by the insane deduction that he made up. She quickly shook her head and decided to explain before his imagination got the best of him. After all, she noticed a few customers were glancing at their location upon hearing what Su Feng uttered. That's not the case, customer. It's just that the owner of this house is currently having some financial difficulty, so they decided to open up a room for rent. I came here to look for a house, not to rent. Why would this place even be listed then? Su Feng questioned, clearly disappointed by the reason. This house was the exact kind he wanted to move to. Not only was security great along with many amenities, but there were a lot of wealthy people in this district as well, followed by many companies. It was the perfect location to set his future foundation without having the need to transport much. Meanwhile, the employee's face gradually turned bright red, clearly ashamed of the situation as well. They were here to offer houses for purchase, So to list a house for rent only was like a slap to their face. It was no different than a restaurant claiming everything was fresh, but then the waiters suddenly said these foods were frozen. One could just imagine the shame and struggle the waiter must go through to even spout these words to the customers. We can look for other houses, esteemed sir. The employee forced a smile, trying to shift the topic. No need, they'll just take this one, and since it's a rental, the price must be cheaper, right? Su Feng waved his hands and said, "Are you sure about that, esteemed sir? Do I look like I'm joking?" "No." "Then please follow me here to complete the procedure." The employee resigned to her fate. Although it was a rental price, it still cost him $50,000. To justify the high rent, the employee went through about the great quality of the house, as well as the environment. Su Feng pretended to be listening, but secretly, he was beginning to plot how he would turn this house's ownership over to him fully. "Ha! Suffering from financial difficulty, then I can just work on that." He sneered inwardly. Once the transaction was done, the employee handed him the key. After all, she suggested showing him the house personally, maybe out of embarrassment, but Su Feng politely rejected it. The house location was not an unfamiliar place to him either. A branch of the Reaver Guild. Just watch how I'll make sure this branch will cease to exist soon. Chapter 32. Bait while Su Feng called for the same driver to get to his new house location. Back at Divine World, things were getting chaotic. Bam! A player clad in armor with a lance on his hand struck against a lava beast, creating a thunderous impact that echoed through the fiery caverns. The beast roared in agony, its molten form splattering against the rocky walls. As the battle raged on, other players joined the fray, their spells and weapons clashing against the relentless onslaught of monsters. Sometime later, the lava beast finally fell to its death, with the players gaining a significant amount of experience points. "Boss, this potion is really amazing. We can fight against these lava beasts without worrying about the hostile environment. Additionally, their attacks are severely weakened as well thanks to our increased resistance." The Night Lancer player exclaimed joyfully. If Su Feng was here, then he would have recognized the Night Lancer player to be the very same one that had scolded him earlier when he first arrived at Riverwood Town. Why bother speaking the obvious, Arn Lance? The boss, Harold Fist, snorted coldly at his subordinate. "Don't you know I spent a lot just to grab 2 potions? If it weren't for the limited potions and being distracted, then I wouldn't have lost the last potion." Regret filled his expression as he recalled this matter. Though the truth was that he didn't have sufficient funds and was forced to watch the last potion being purchased by someone else. Nevertheless, he was still exhilarated to obtain 2 out of the 4 available potions. And just when he was wondering how to use these potions carefully, given it cost a fortune, a generous player decided to post on the forum on how to tackle the Scorch Caverns. Obviously, Harold Fist wasn't foolish enough to follow the guide right away and waste his potions. Instead, he had his subordinates enter the Scorched Caverns first without the use of potions and follow the guide. Sure enough, the guide was accurate, and they only ended up in defeat because of the lack of fire resistance. To ensure that it was true, Harold Fist didn't hesitate to test the theory 3 more times until he confirmed it was doable. Thus, he was now with his trusted aide, Ardent Lance, along with the elites of his guild to officially attempt the first clear achievement. "Hurry up, people!" Harold Fist loudly shouted. "Ian Ardent Lance's potion duration has a time limit, so we must reach the finale fast." "Yes, boss." With the battle outcry, Harold Fist, Ardent Lance, and the rest of the members began to proceed forward, their pace rapidly increasing. As Harold Fist was determined to become ahead of the rest of the other guilds, outside the dungeon, a large group of people were gathering. "Do you think Harold Fist will achieve the first clear? He has a 90% chance." Harold Fist himself leaked that he got 2 out of the 4 fire resistance potions from the auction market, and his members already tested the theory from that anonymous player as well. It seems like the Tyrant Fist Guild will become the pioneers this time. Indeed, Harold Fist is really lucky to have so much fun so early on. His fingers are also so damn fast to click the buyout option compared to others. It's definitely because his thing down there is no good, so he needs to resort to finger to satisfy his partner. That's the only reason why he has fast fingers. While the players discussed among themselves and showcased clear envy and jealousy at Harold Fist and his seemingly secured first clear achievement, in a distant area, someone else was livid. Gentle Wind, are you sure that person isn't fooling you? Autumn Breeze asked. I know we have the contract, but what if he doesn't care about this game and just wants to earn some quick bucks? You've even sent him the money already, too. She added, feeling confused by her friend's action. Haha, just calm down for a bit, Autumn Breeze. Gentle Wind chuckled softly, her expression tranquil. It's not even certain that Harold Fist would succeed. Maybe he will soon begin cursing and throwing his fist randomly. Hearing that nonchalant response, Autumn Breeze narrowed her eyes and stared at her suspiciously. Do you know something that you haven't told me, Gentle Wind? You'll know in due time. Ugh, what's with the mysterious acting? Just tell me. I'm your bestie. Autumn Breeze started acting coy, hugging her arms and asking with puppy eyes. Despite the cute actions, Gentle Wind merely smiled and responded in a roundabout way. There's no need to know now aside from the fact that Harold Fist will definitely become an embarrassment soon. By that time, you can use some of our funds to take a screenshot of his green face. Almost instantaneously, Autumn Breeze started clapping her hands, her eyes eager in anticipation of such a scene. Ha! That Harold Fist was so arrogant in the previous game too. If I can see him being frustrated to the point of his face turning green, then that's something to be shared with everyone. She cheered gleefully. Watching her bestie imagine the downfall of an arrogant person, Gentle Wind didn't bother to comment on it and instead began private messaging someone. Gentle Wind. Harold Fist has taken the bait and is in the dungeon currently. Anonymous player. Thanks for the heads up. Rest assured, he won't be able to complete the dungeon and more potions would be soon available for auction. Gentle Wind. Are you not going to give me a few like you promised? Anonymous player. The potions I'm putting for auction aren't that great. But if you still want them, then I can give you a few out of favor for paying me in advance. Gentle Wind. They'll take your word for it then. As Gentle Wind unconsciously held a smile on her face, on the other side of the message, Su Feng himself arrived at his new house location. Closing the message prompt that was being projected from his smartwatch, he thanked the driver and gave him a good tip as well. Harold Fist has taken the bait, so I must hurry up with this business and log back in to make a fortune, he murmured, staring at the magnificent skyscraper. Chapter 33. Skyscraper. The magnificent skyscraper stood tall, and from his perspective, he could barely see the top of the building. The house that he rented was technically an apartment, but also not quite an apartment, given he was renting a mini room of an apartment. Not to mention, this skyscraper was one of the few that had each vacant apartment room to be the size of a medium house. One could just imagine the sheer size of the skyscraper and the amount of money poured into it for the building. Any owner of the apartment had full ownership, and not even the skyscraper owner could do anything to them unless they broke any of the major rules of the building. It was because of such unique rules implemented in this skyscraper that Su Feng was determined to take ownership of one as well. After all, you would be protected by the skyscraper owner from any external threat not belonging here. Not to mention, many floors in this skyscraper don't include just housing space for people. Instead, it had fully functional companies who rented the area to do business. These companies could only rent and not buy and could be considered the main source of income for the skyscraper owner. This skyscraper owner is really a person's life goal. Su Feng would be kidding if he wasn't envious of such a person. Who didn't want to earn money consistently while doing absolutely nothing? Of course, it was just him daydreaming, because anyone capable of doing such things had a huge background and wealth behind them. As if there would be a vacant space for the ordinary to achieve such things as well. Entering the lobby that looked as large as 2 soccer fields combined, Su Feng was positive anyone would be lost or filled with pressure to enter here for the first time. The atmosphere was simply too different compared to the outside. Slowly heading toward the elevator section, Su Feng was ready to see his new house. However, he was halted by a security guard who clearly found him to be unfamiliar. Apologies, but what is your purpose here? The security guard asked, his tone neither overbearing nor overly polite. He was merely inquiring for Su Feng's purpose, given that the latter was somewhat of a stranger and was attempting to use the elevator designated for house owners. In this elevator section, there are multiple types of elevators, each with their designated floor. Some elevators are available for the public area, some are for the companies, and some are for the house owners. Security for the elevators in public areas was more relaxed, whereas there was some authentication required for the company's elevator. As for house owners, these are the most critical ones, hence the security guard needed to determine Su Feng's identity. After all, those eligible to own a house in this skyscraper were certainly no ordinary beings. And as if he had expected to be halted, Su Feng was swift to prove his identity and authentication to the security guard. Apologies, sir. You may proceed to use the elevator. Once the security guard was able to verify and confirm the information, he became polite and allowed Su Feng to access the elevator. Thanks for your hard work. Su Feng thanked the security guard and entered the elevator, his demeanor calm and smooth. Pressing the 36th floor, Su Feng calmly waited for the elevator to ascend. Meanwhile, the security guard was confused, scratching his head. When there was a change of ownership here? How come I wasn't notified? He wondered aloud, clearly not expecting to see a new tenant. Alas, he soon brushed past the matter and returned to his guarding duty. Who cares if it was a new tenant or not? That person had all the information required, and he authenticated it already. Thus, it was no longer his business anymore. Best to not know too much and stay put. This job pays me well, and I can't afford to lose it. Otherwise, that tiger wife of mine will definitely hit me with the slipper. The security guard thought to himself, his expression turning vigilant, afraid of committing a mistake. While the security guard had such a mindset, Su Feng arrived at the 36th floor. Upon exiting the elevator, Su Feng noticed the hallways were simply too huge. Luckily, there were room numbers labeled on the holographic screen, allowing them to not get lost. Let's see. Room 360 is toward the north side from here. Su Feng analyzed the map and got the information he needed. There are cameras installed everywhere, huh? He noticed that there were no blind spots and became more reassured with the location. Although he had heard great things about this place in the past, the truth was he had only been here to accompany others. Thus, he rarely paid attention to the details of the structure, given he had never truly owned one himself. Of course, that might not be the case soon since he was already planning on how to resolve the other party's financial situation. He might not have the money, but with his knowledge, it wouldn't be difficult to give the person some pointers. Sometime later, Su Feng arrived at room 360 and unlocked the door using the key as well as scanning his iris. These authentications were all done back at the previous store by the employee, saving him quite the trouble and hassle. A beep sound resounded softly, and the door was unlocked. Opening the door and entering the room, Su Feng's eye sockets nearly popped out. What the hell is this? He had to remove his glasses and rub his eyes twice to determine he wasn't hallucinating. This is actually real? The interior of the house was simply too advanced, being no different than a presidential suite, the kind of environment from a five-star hotel. Is the owner playing a joke or something? How could such a person have any financial difficulty? He muttered, seemingly unable to fathom the possibility of the owner struggling financially when they had the latest technologies. Chapter 34. Domino effect. A few minutes had gone by, and Su Feng practically explored each and every cranny of the room. He didn't expect to be able to rent such a place at the price that he was asked to pay. This simply didn't make any sense to him. Did my fortune really increase? He questioned himself, feeling like this was too good to be true. It was just a shame that Zhao Kai was not here at the moment. Otherwise, he would have definitely given the latter another punch to the face to check if it was the reality or not. Despite the excitement of his findings, Su Feng didn't allow himself to get too distracted. Such vanities were naturally pleasing to the eyes, but there were more important tasks up ahead for him. He could not afford to idle his time away, admiring these vanities that didn't belong to him, at least not yet. Just as Su Feng was about to head to the supposed bedroom assigned to him, he suddenly received a message. The message was from an unknown person, but he recognized the numbers on it. "Oh, this is the owner, huh?" Su Feng muttered, opening the message. "Hi, I'm the owner of room 360, and you are allowed to use the facility in the house. But if you break anything, then you must pay for everything. Also, there are security cameras everywhere, so don't try to do anything funny. They'll be returning to the room later on to greet you, so feel free to do your own thing." Right after he finished reading the message, he heard a somewhat beeping sound on the ceiling. Lifting his head upward, he then saw a camera nodding itself up and down, seemingly implying that it was watching him. How humorous, Su Feng thought, not a bit offended by the actions. Given that the person was desperate enough to rent out a bedroom for $50,000, some sort of security measures being implemented was understandable. Unwilling to spend too much time with this person, he replied back with a simple OK emoji, as well as making a hand signal toward the camera. Afterward, he proceeded to enter the bedroom assigned to him. "Not bad. It's spacious and comfortable," he commented, though most of his attention was focused on a large gaming capsule. This was also the main reason why he was adamant in choosing this place despite being somewhat suspicious. His virtual helmet was nice with great synchronization, but it was an inferior item when compared to the real gaming capsule. He wouldn't be forced to lay in bed while gaming anymore. Instead, he would be lying in the comfortable cushion of the gaming capsule with a monitoring system equipped to ensure his body's health was kept at the optimal state. Just a single glance at this gaming capsule, and Su Feng could determine its value to be at 100,000 and above. And precisely because the owner was generous enough to allow him to use the gaming capsule, Su Feng didn't mind being scrutinized a little bit. It was a small price to pay for such a great bargain. Moreover, the security cameras are equipped in the living room and kitchen room. Private areas, such as the bedroom and bathroom, didn't have security cameras. Glancing at the bedroom for a few more seconds, Su Feng proceeded to lay on the gaming capsule, choosing to log back into the divine world. Like always, there was a momentarily brief darkness before Su Feng regained his vision. Upon opening his eyes, Su Feng was dumbfounded by the sheer number of players crowding the streets. What the hell happened to the sudden influx of players? Previously, when he logged out of the game, the streets were still somewhat spacious. However, now it looked like there was no space to even walk around. Checking his game notification, Su Feng realized there were quite a bit of unread messages in the inbox. "Right, I was doing the application and muted my notification," he mumbled, realizing he had forgotten to turn on the notification after finishing the housing application with the employee. Since he was filling out some important documents, he didn't want to be disturbed at that time. Although he did place a timer to have it turned on automatically after a certain time, the time runs differently in the game compared to the real world. Thus, lots of things could have happened while he was busy with his other tasks. It seems like the bait worked wonderfully and attracted numerous players to migrate to Riverwood Town. Su Feng soon figured things out after reading Gentle Wind's message and the game forum posts. Apparently, Harold Fist was on the verge of tears when he was so close to achieving the first clear achievement. And the reason why he failed was due to the duration of the potions running out. Therefore, he started spamming lots of messages in the game forum, requesting for the mysterious seller to show up and sell the potions to him. He even went as far as saying he would put out $10,000 to buy a batch, equivalent to 10 silver coins in-game. Alas, Harold Fist was impulsive, and instead of posting the forum in a specific region, he published the post to other regions as well, prompting players from elsewhere to realize the situation. A player can make a forum post based on their region or publicly where everyone could see regardless of their location. To simplify things, it was the equivalent of a local and global difference. By publishing the post globally, he was announcing this to every player. Smiling bitterly, Su Feng didn't know how to react to this. On one hand, Harold Fist helped publicize his items for free, but on the other hand, the domino effect he was striving for had increased tremendously from his original scope. How am I supposed to stay hidden and earn a profit when everyone has their attention on this matter now? How did this Harold Fist even become a guild leader with such a mentality? Su Feng wondered silently. Chapter 35. Go big or go home after realizing the severity of the situation. Su Feng soon adapted to the change and began to make new plans. Now that the appearance of fire resistance potions had been revealed to the masses, there was no longer any need to conceal it further. Additionally, his post had gone to the top 3 thanks to the extensive guide, where players didn't doubt its legitimacy, courtesy of Herald Fist verifying and confirming the strategy from his frantic forum post. Everyone is following the guide precisely, with only a few variations in between and with so many other players confirming it's true. I doubt it would take much longer for someone to obtain the first clear achievement. Su Feng fixed his glasses slightly, analyzing the possibility of the situation. As much as he wished to achieve a greater shock factor, players aren't foolish enough to not find a breakthrough soon, especially when some could have a stroke of luck and complete the dungeon through brute force. While he was thinking that it was time to give everyone the shock of their lifetime, Gentle Wind was messaging him again. Gentle Wind. Riverwood Town is experiencing an explosion in popularity. Many players from other regions are coming here en masse. Are you still confident about getting the first clear achievement? Anonymous user. Relax, Gentle Wind. There's no need to worry much. Gentle Wind. How could I not worry? Even without those potions, I heard some teams and guilds are reaching the final stage as well. Anonymous user. Then let them achieve it. Gentle Wind. Anonymous user. It seems like you have misunderstood me from the beginning, Gentle Wind. You're only speaking of their progress in the easy mode. But the first clear achievement I'm guaranteeing is hell mode, not easy or normal mode. Let's get that clear. She's not responding yet. Su Feng checked the time and realized a few minutes had gone by since there was a response. So she really did misunderstand me. Well, not that it was surprising anyway. He was never the type to achieve some mediocre results. If you're going to do something, then it must be a banger. The first clear achievements were amazing, but that also depended on the difficulty of it. Everyone else was currently trying to obtain the first clear achievement on the easy mode level, but his intention had always been hell mode. Therefore, he was never worried about others taking the first achievement on easy mode level. After all, who would care about it anymore once the higher difficulty level was achieved by someone else? Matter of fact, their achievement and feeling of glory would soon turn to a feeling of shame. A shame that could not be washed away, because while they were celebrating like kings, another party had swooped in and accomplished greater results. Them acting like kings would instantly turn into a bunch of clowns, parading their pitiful achievement. Seems like Gentle Wind managed to recompose herself. Su Feng muttered, reading her response. Gentle Wind. Your intention and the contract of our deal was always about the hell mode difficulty? Anonymous user. Naturally. Otherwise, why would I demand such a high fee? Gentle Wind. Surely, you must be jesting. How can it be considered a high fee if you were talking about hell mode? Anonymous user. Well, you're my first customer after all, and the first customer usually gets some privilege. Anyway, have your members reached the threshold of my requirement yet? Gentle Wind. I was just about to mention this to you. We're ready on our side. Anonymous user. Great. Wait by the forest and I'll arrange for my subordinate to meet you there. With that message sent, Su Feng also started listing the inferior fire resistance potions in the auction market. Online players, 6,875 current listings. Fire resistance potion X5, seller. Anonymous user starting bid, 10 copper coins buyout price. 3 silver coin time left. 12 hours since the value of the potions increased extensively thanks to Herald Fist, Su Feng decided to raise the price. Not only that, but he also purposely ensured that no one else would know how many batches would be sold, essentially enticing them to buy it as soon as possible. Otherwise, they would lose their chance. Go big or go home. These players are now trapped in his little cages, having been psychologically manipulated into splurging more for their imaginary future success. Oh, Herald Fist, because of your actions for attracting so many players here, I hereby give you my thanks and listen to your request. Now empty your pocket and splash me with the money. Su Feng sneered inwardly. Originally, he wasn't going to be that ruthless with the pricing. However, with the influx of players arriving here, causing the difficulty to rise tremendously for him to navigate. He decided to be ruthless. Meanwhile, the moment he put up the listing of the potions, players nearby him started shouting in fervor. Hot damn! The potions are back in the auction market. What? Really? Holy smoke, it's actually back, and this time it's in batches. This mysterious seller is really shrewd. Now that the potions are in high demand, they're going to make a killing again. 3 silver coins as the buyout price. I don't even have 50 copper coins. Seeing them shouting in such fervor, with some being envious and others being frantic, Su Feng was pleased. He was anticipating the rapid fortune he was going to make, so he decided to join in on the fun and entice them further. The seller might have listed it up because of the increase of players here, but knowing the potion is such a rarity. I wonder if this is the only batch or not. He shouted loudly, bringing the attention to others that this might be the only batch being sold. Right? Who knows if there are going to be more? Indeed, I try to look for information in NPC stores in the area, but none of them have these kinds of potions. I came from Greenbird Town, and they don't have these items either. Otherwise, I wouldn't have traveled here. As the players started to panic among themselves, Su Feng equipped a mask that he bought from a vendor and began walking toward the forest at a calm and steady pace. Chapter 36. Destination. As Su Feng continued to head toward the forest, he would constantly hear people shouting and running around. Most of them were talks about the potions in the auction market, and some were talks about borrowing money. Hey, lend me 40 copper coins. They'll pay you back double later on. Buying silver coins with real-world currency. Send me a private message if you're interested. Our guild is purchasing coins in large batches as well. Hearing these shouts, Su Feng felt heartache. Had he waited for a little longer, then with the sudden rise of demand for coins, he could have sold for more real-world currency. Alas, what a blunder. Luckily, I only sold 50 silver coins and still have more in stock. Su Feng attempted to ease his heart pain. It was just a shame that the further he walked, the more he heard about the players willing to overpay for the in-game currency. Luckily, he was experienced and managed to calm his emotions in time. Otherwise, he would have spat out a mouthful of blood from the losses. Calm down. One can never be too perfect. We're humans after all, he thought to himself, choosing to turn deaf for the moment. So long as he could not hear them, there would not be any more heartache. Time slowly passed by, and Su Feng received a notification by the time he stepped foot outside Riverwood Town. System, you have entered the neutral area. Neutral area, just as the name suggested, he would no longer be protected by the NPC guards from Riverwood Town. This meant that there would be monsters attacking him, and possibly other players as well. After all, players killing other players in the neutral area won't be detained by NPC guards. Although they won't be detained and captured by the NPC guards, players who killed others will still gain something called a bounty tag. Bounty tags are essentially a label for player killers, otherwise known as pikers, and when those with bounty tags are killed, their death punishment is more severe. Will I meet with a bounty tag player now? Su Feng wondered silently, treading through the forest. To be fair, he wasn't afraid of being hunted despite being quite low level. Looking at his status screen, he could only smile bitterly because the harsh debuff was still active, meaning he couldn't even actively attempt to hunt for monsters. Player name, Lin Feng class, cleric level, 2 experience points, 840/10,000 attributes, strength 9, agility 9, endurance 11, intelligence 15, vitality 12 free attribute points. 5. Sigh. The game experience points demanded are just outrageous. He scratched his head while allocating his free attribute points to intelligence and agility, with 3 going to agility and the remaining 2 going to intelligence. He didn't pay much attention to strength, endurance, and vitality yet, as intelligence and agility attributes were more important to him. Strength increased a player's physical attack power, while endurance boosted maximum HP and stamina. Vitality helped in the recovery of HP and MP, which he considered somewhat less useful for his cleric class. Thus, Su Feng regarded these 3 attributes as relatively inconsequential compared to intelligence, which increased magical attack power and maximum MP, and agility, which enhanced attack speed and movement speed. Having finished allocating the attributes, Su Feng proceeded forward to the destination that Gentle Wind informed him about. Sometime later, Su Feng arrived at the destination and saw multiple people gathering around. Right as he stepped near the vicinity of their gathering, a person came forward, scrutinizing him. He was a tall man with no shield or lance equipped, but upon closer inspection, Su Feng noticed his belt had guns hidden. The specialist gunner class, huh? He deduced silently, merely standing still and staring back at the man. This is a restricted area currently. Please leave now, the man announced, clearly not expecting Su Feng to be the person they were waiting for. He was also cautious of him due to Su Feng wearing a mask and concealing his appearance. Additionally, just like how Su Feng had deduced him to be a gunner, the same goes for him as well, having deduced Su Feng was a cleric. Your guild leader is Gentle Wind, correct? Su Feng responded calmly. If so, then I'm sure she is the one I'm looking for. Or do you want to continue to stop me and hinder her plans? He added, provoking the latter on purpose. He wanted to test whether or not this gunner was an impulsive person or not. If this gunner was impulsive, then Su Feng might request Gentle Wind to have him leave the team. To have an impulsive person alongside to do the Scorched Caverns was essentially asking to have the chance of success lower. Meanwhile, the gunner was clearly displeased by the attitude and tone of Su Feng, but he managed to compose himself. Instead of losing his anger, he nodded his head and asked for the code. The code that was made between him and Gentle Wind earlier to determine the subordinate he sent was verified and not an imposter. Since he was clearly the real deal, Su Feng had no problem with saying the code. All right, our guild leader is waiting for you for a while. The gunner said flatly, turned around, and proceeded to walk without caring if he was following or not. He can still keep his cool. Su Feng thought to himself, following him at a fixed distance. Maybe it was because of the people he interacted with in the past, but Su Feng was greatly astounded by the logical people he was interacting with now. Back then, those people always held a mighty and overbearing attitude, believing themselves to be the king. They were prone to irritation and outbursts at the slightest mishaps. Little did Su Feng know that the reason why he didn't receive such treatment was due to his standings having changed dramatically. Back then, he was only doing the bidding for others, but now it was him in control. Gentle Wind wished to cooperate with him, and he came under the guise of the subordinate of the mysterious player. Thus, the gunner needed to pay attention to his behavior and attitude, lest he might accidentally anger the subordinate and displease Gentle Wind. Chapter 37. Gentle Wind having followed the gunner, Su Feng soon arrived at the true destination. Throughout the route, he noticed many players were inspecting the areas, clearly afraid of other unknown players infiltrating their base. How pointless is this, though? From their perspective, they were planning to do something big, but from Su Feng's perspective, it was just a trivial task. As long as they listened and followed his command properly, they could easily complete the Hell Mode difficulty. There was no need for all this secrecy and manpower, though he can't speak much of them either, considering he was hiding his appearance with a mask as well. Sometime later, the gunner stopped his footstep as he greeted the woman in front of him politely. Guild leader, I've brought the person that you're waiting for. Good work, Steel Shot. I'll have a talk with the person while you and the rest get ready. Gentle Wind nodded and commanded. The gunner, Steel Shot, nodded his head and returned to his team. Are you the subordinate sent by the person I've been messaging? Gentle Wind's gaze scrutinized Su Feng, assessing his gear and demeanor. Simultaneously, Su Feng also evaluated Gentle Wind. Gentle Wind's sorcerer attire consisted of a basic robe adorned with modest symbols, paired with a leather belt and fingerless gloves. Her staff, crafted from sturdy oak and tipped with a crystal, hinted at her budding magical prowess. As Su Feng observed her staff, he recognized it as the Arcanewood staff, typically available for equipping at level 4. She must have grinded a lot while I took a small break. Indeed, I am, Su Feng calmly replied. Boss sent me here to assist you in getting the first clear achievement. Oh, is your boss not going to show up at all? Gentle Wind seemed surprised, clearly not expecting the person to remain hidden. She had initially thought the person wanted to meet them by the dungeon and merely sent someone here for a preliminary introduction. Heh, boss is a busy person and has too many businesses to do. Su Feng chuckled humorously, putting on a new personality to prevent the latter from connecting him to the person she was messaging. Are you a cleric by any chance? Gentle Wind raised an eyebrow. Yep, I'm a cleric and level 2 at that. Amazing, right? What nonsense is this? Before Gentle Wind could even respond, her companion had interrupted her. Autumn Breeze remained polite. Gentle Wind lightly chided her. Though based on her tone, it was evident that Gentle Wind was skeptical of this arrangement as well, but can't voice it out. Thus, having Autumn Breeze interrupting and making a scene would be better. And having received her signal, Autumn Breeze proceeded with her actions, stepping forward. Your boss received the payment from us already, but not only did your boss fail to show up, they even sent a level 2 cleric. Are you trying to mess with us? She snorted coldly. As if he had expected such a commotion from the start, Su Feng merely kept his cool and slowly retrieved a few fire resistance potions. The current market for the fire resistance potions is sky high right now. Even with enough funds, you might not even be able to obtain them. And what I have right here is a superior version than the ones you see in the auction market. So tell me, does it look like we'll use such high-quality potions as a joke? Su Feng questioned back, deflecting Autumn Breeze's doubts. Seeing was better than hearing, and now that they witnessed Su Feng retrieving the genuine fire resistance potions, their doubts gradually lowered significantly. Do you mind if I inspect one of them? Gentle Wind softly asked. Be my guest. Su Feng smirked and allowed Gentle Wind to inspect each of the potions he had brought out. Sure enough, once Gentle Wind finished reading the description and comparing it to the one she had managed to purchase previously, the difference was clear. The ones that Su Feng revealed were superior and greater than the ones listed in the auction market. A few minutes later, Su Feng's voice broke the silent atmosphere. I suppose no one else should have any doubts that we're trying to mess around, right? Although Autumn Breeze wished to speak further, Gentle Wind signaled her to stand down. Nothing could be more concrete than the set of potions laid flatly in her eyes. The effects and duration of the potions you brought are indeed superior. Gentle Wind admitted the genuineness of it. I'm glad we managed to get that cleared. Su Feng clasped his hands together and asked, the Scorched Caverns only allow 20 players maximum, so how many players are you bringing along with their classes? Nodding her head, Gentle Wind began to give a brief report of her arrangement. Aside from you being a cleric, we have another 2 players, followed by 6 sorcerers, 1 summoner, for berserkers, 2 assassins, 1 gun knight, 1 knight lancer, and 2 gunners. Hearing the list, Su Feng couldn't help but shake his head repeatedly. There were simply too many varieties in the classes, and some of them could even become a burden. This arrangement is no good, Gentle Wind. Su Feng gave his honest opinion on this matter. Assassins are not needed in this dungeon, so having them is a waste of slots. 1 gunner is enough considering we have 6 sorcerers already. I suggest allocating the remaining members to 3 gun knights, 2 knight lancers. He added, inputting his own desired arrangement. In his suggestion, there will now be 3 clerics, 6 sorcerers, 1 summoner, for berserkers, 3 gun knights, 2 knight lancers, and 1 gunner, making up a total of 20 slots. Naturally, conflicts were bound to rise when Su Feng essentially eliminated the assassins' players, causing them to be livid. What nonsense are you saying? Don't you know assassins are proficient in dealing with traps? Or are you trying to say you can detect them better? One of the assassins retorted, clearly finding the new arrangement to be ridiculous. Chapter 38. Team Leader. A commotion occurred, especially among Gentle Wind's assassin players, who were clearly displeased about being eliminated solely because of their classes. Not to mention, it was eliminated because of an outsider, Su Feng. To them, it was like a slap in their face. Just before the conflicts could expand further, Gentle Wind quickly waved her hands, prompting her members to settle down. She didn't believe the person was trying to cause a conflict and should have their own reason for such an arrangement. Right as she was about to call him, she suddenly realized she hadn't gotten the latter's name yet. Lin Feng, you can call me that. As if realizing her predicament, Su Feng gave his in-game name to her. After all, once the first clear achievement was achieved, the announcement would be broadcast in the local region regardless if he wanted to or not. At that time, his in-game name would be exposed anyway, so it was best to be honest and come up with another alias for the mysterious player persona. Okay, Lin Feng, do you have a reason for such changes? Gentle Wind asked. It's not that I want to complain, but the assassins are required to search for the traps hidden in the Scorched Caverns. Without them, it would be hard to navigate and advance forward, especially when the traps are laid randomly with each new attempt. I understand your concern, Gentle Wind. However, there's obviously a reason why I made such an arrangement. Su Feng raised his hand up and said, prompting her to stop persuading him. His tone of speech was quite evident for Gentle Wind to comprehend that he didn't wish to divulge the reason. Pondering over the options, Gentle Wind sighed softly in the end. With the contract serving as the foundation, she didn't suspect the latter of trying to sabotage them. After all, the compensation for breaching it was extremely heavy. Since you wanted such an arrangement, then so be it, though we might have to wait a little longer. Gentle Wind calmly said. Guild leader? The rest of the assassin players were stunned on the spot when they heard their leader agreeing to the outsider. They tried to rebuke it, but were reprimanded instead. Enough. Gentle Wind's expression turned stern as she glared at the assassin players, causing them to close their mouths and lower their heads. Am I the guild leader here, or are you the guild leader? She then asked coldly, feeling ashamed of her members for such a display. She was the guild leader, and these were the members. In situations like this, they should just oblige to her command without uttering a single complaint. Otherwise, weren't their actions equivalent to demonstrating her authority was constantly being challenged from an outsider's perspective? Go and level up on your own while I call for the others. Gentle Wind commanded. The assassin players didn't dare to make a sound as they vanished from the scene, activating their stealth skills. Sorry for the shameful display, Lin Feng. Once the assassins left, Gentle Wind softly apologized to Su Feng. No need for the apology, Gentle Wind. Su Feng shook his head, clearly not minding the reaction. If I were them, I would have probably done the same since I'm an outsider and haven't even proved any of my abilities yet. It's natural to feel discontent and irritated. Toward that statement, Gentle Wind merely flashed a soft smile, unwilling to respond to it. The statement might seem polite at first glance, but there was a hidden meaning in them. The meaning was no different than saying her members were immature and failed to think before they talked or acted. Although hateful, he's reminding me to pay more attention to the chain of command. Gentle Wind thought to herself, realizing a substantial flaw in her guild members. A few minutes later, Gentle Wind began calling for other players that Su Feng had requested. By the time she finished, she asked, I suppose you're going to act as the team leader and do the commanding, right? Su Feng nodded his head. If they were going to complete the Hell Mode difficulty, he needed full control of the team's movement and actions. With the team leader position decided upon, Su Feng, Autumn Breeze, Steel Shot, and some other members were quite displeased. Nevertheless, they remained silent, having witnessed a prime example of the punishment for speaking out of line. Anyway, I want to ask if you're willing to join my guild, Silver Wind, temporarily. I want this first clear achievement to be fully displayed as our guild. Gentle Wind asked, knowing her request was somewhat presumptuous. That's a bit difficult. Su Feng tilted his head slightly, acting as if he was placed in an awkward situation. I know it's a bit too much to ask for you, but I don't mind compensating you for the trouble. She quickly said, clearly afraid he would reject her request. After all, the contract clause never stated he had to join their guild. Therefore, it was presumptuous of her to request such a thing, but she realized the importance of this matter now when it was revealed the dungeon they would be doing was the Hell Mode difficulty and not the Easy Mode difficulty. An Easy Mode difficulty completion would garner some popularity, but it was worthless when compared to the Hell Mode difficulty, especially when it was a guild that completed it. So long as the announcement displayed their guild name only, it was a guaranteed increased fame, and many players would request to join their guild in response. Sigh, if you're adamant like that, then I need to contact my boss about it. I have no authority over this. Su Feng feigned an exhaustive tone, opening his private message as he pretended to be contacting his imaginary boss. Thank you. And you can tell your boss that money is definitely not a problem. Gentle Wind smiled, appreciating him for relaying the message on her behalf. It was better to have a message than her doing it personally. Chapter 39. Zhao Kai's decision. Some time had passed by, and with Su Feng meticulously pretending to contact himself, the new agreement was promptly made. Gentle Wind would increase the payment by $10,000, and with each increment of 100 players she managed to recruit within 1 week of the achievement obtained, she would pay an additional $1,000. In return, Su Feng would join her guild, Silver Wind, temporarily, and give her all the credits for the achievement. Signing the contract on behalf of his boss, Su Feng chuckled softly. My boss told me to relay this. Happy cooperation. Happy cooperation to you as well. Gentle Wind smiled, feeling like a heavy stone had lifted from her body. The money was no problem to her. In fact, she was relatively surprised that the other party didn't care about the achievement and seemed more focused on the money. There were times she even began to suspect the other party was a poor person, but that thought was quickly submerged. After all, she can't fathom how a poor person could manipulate the market and create such a frenzy right at the early stages of the game. Not to mention, the production of the fire resistance potions was still a mystery. The game forum was practically about to be ripped apart, with so many players discussing the origin of such potions. While the two were discussing in harmony about what they would do in the dungeon, Autumn Breeze began whispering with Steel Shot. Psst, don't you think our guild leader is acting quite weird this time? Autumn Breeze asked. We haven't even stepped foot in the dungeon, but the guild leader seems so confident that we will succeed. Steel Shot nodded his head in agreement. Agreed. So many people such as Harold Fist have failed the easy mode difficulty already. But we're going to be tackling the hell mode difficulty. I'm already betting that we will experience the death penalty already. Anyway, that person called himself Lin Feng. So do you have any information regarding him yet? Autumn Breeze asked, finding the latter to be overly suspicious. He was merely a cleric and a level 2 at that, yet he was acting like some big shot. Without even properly introducing himself, he already decided to make the changes in their arrangement. Just what kind of person does that? Meanwhile, Steel Shot shook his head helplessly as he tried to ask a few of his friends to investigate, only to end up with a who in response. Unfortunately, we don't have many details regarding him, Autumn Breeze. It seems like he had just recently appeared in Riverwood Town, since there are no records of him slaying monsters in the forest either. TSK, so pretentious. Autumn Breeze clicked her tongue, clearly disappointed by the result. Whatever, if he's really just clowning around, we'll make sure to give him a taste of my fury. How dare he waste the guild leader's time? She crackled her fist and sneered evilly. Although Steel Shot didn't say anything, his expression was obvious that he would join in with her to make Su Feng pay the price if he was just showboating. Time slowly passed by, and Su Feng officially accepted the guild invitation to join Silver Wind when the rest of Gentle Wind's members arrived on the scene. System, you have joined Silver Wind Guild. Did it really need a system prompt for this? Maybe it was because it was his first guild, so the system made a prompt, or maybe a part of his memory simply didn't wish to remember this. After all, he was no different than a hunting dog with that notification back then. All right, we're ready. Gentle Wind's words snapped him out of his daze. Simply nodding his head in response, Su Feng allowed Gentle Wind to take the lead. It was discussed the team leader position would be him, but that would be showcased in the dungeon. Currently, on the surface, he would need to act as a mere guild member of hers. From the perspective of others, Gentle Wind was the commander or leader who would personally lead her guild members to victory, garnering all the fame and reputation whatnot. This worked heavily in Su Feng's favor anyway, since he didn't wish to be put in the spotlight, at least not at the moment. Gentle Wind's influence was great, and her backing seemed sufficient enough to handle the pressure, but the same can't be applied to him. Oh, Zhao Kai, hopefully your dumb brain can finally be enlightened and join the game soon. I need some more manpower to continue my mysterious persona play. Su Feng prayed silently, hoping he would join soon. With Zhao Kai on board, there were many things he could delegate to him instead, essentially working him to death. As Su Feng was having such malicious thoughts, back in the real world, Zhao Kai, who had left the school competition in a fit of rage, suddenly felt a cold shiver. What the hell? Zhao Kai swallowed a mouthful of saliva, feeling his arms that seemed to have some goosebumps. Who's thinking evil of me? He murmured, finding the sudden chill to be a bit creepy. Alas, after brooding it over and finding zero clues, he scratched his head and proceeded to touch the virtual helmet that he had recently purchased. It's all Feng's fault. Had he not ditched the competition completely, I wouldn't have been ridiculed and gotten angry. Now I even bought this expensive-ass helmet. Ugh, my food money is gone now. Zhao Kai teared up in pain at the loss of precious money. If only he hadn't been influenced by Su Feng, then he wouldn't have garnered such thoughts and become so impulsive. Too bad. There was no going back since he tried to refund the virtual helmet right away, but was told he was only going to receive half the money he used to purchase it. TSK, I play this damn game then. He'll beat Feng up in the game since I still haven't repaid him for that slap. Fumed with rage, Zhao Kai swiftly put the virtual helmet on as he began his journey in the divine world. Chapter 40. One-man media. While Zhao Kai had made up his mind to join the hype game, Divine World, Su Feng, General Wind, and along with the rest of her members arrived at the entrance of the dungeon. Upon their arrival, the nearby players were instantly attracted by them. Some were admiring Gentle Wind's beauty, while some were reporting the situation back to their respective leaders. Hey look, isn't that Gentle Wind? Ah, just look at her beauty. I will die to just stand next to her save it ugly bitch. With your looks and mediocre skills, do you think you even have a chance? Fuck, you can't even let me daydream a bit in a game? Yeah, if I let you continue, then I'll be disgusted to even be your friend. Be realistic and accept your single life, man. Also, I need to start posting this big news in the forum. I might get many likes and comments this time, with Gentle Wind finally joining in on the fun. You are not my brother. Although most of the players were whispering among themselves, there tended to be a few folks who were beyond shameless and had no intention of whispering. You're quite the popular person, Gentle Wind. Su Feng complimented, praising her ability to attract such attention right from the start without doing much. Surely you must be joking, Lin Feng. Gentle Wind chuckled softly. If I truly had such ability, then why hadn't you been charmed by me already? Ha! Su Feng laughed awkwardly at the joke she threw at him. Naturally, she didn't intend to charm him, but was merely talking about how he didn't react like those male players earlier. And, probably because of this, Gentle Wind actually gave him quite a good amount of respect, since he didn't turn lewd or lustful despite seeing her, and was able to remain calm and concise with his objective in their interactions. She viewed him in a good light, including with his somewhat awkward laughter in response to her teasing. Gentle Wind was more reassured. She had witnessed too many men attempting to act aloof and cold to catch her attention, but they all failed miserably. With a single glance and her intuition, she could sense these men were all filled with nefarious intent toward her beauty. All right, I won't tease you any further, lest it might raise suspicions. She chuckled softly. Su Feng nodded his head, but gave some advice as well. If you're trying to gather attention, I suggest you announce your objective to everyone here. After all, announcing your objective and actually succeeding in it would be more explosive than announcing it later on. The difference between the two was merely the announcement time, but the effect one would receive was vastly different. To announce your objective beforehand would cause others to become more frantic once you succeeded because it showcased your guild's ability and manpower are miles ahead of others. Pondering for a moment and finding him to be correct logically, Gentle Wind couldn't help but change her evaluation of him. Are you secretly a guild manager, Lin Feng? You seemed quite adept in these types of situations. She half jokingly and half seriously asked, clearly intrigued by his foresight. Just some common sense. Su Feng pointed his finger on his brain, tapping it slightly. Alas, his actions somewhat infuriated those behind him, having mistaken his words for jabbing them for lacking such common sense. TSK, what a poser. Autumn Breeze thought to herself, just you wait and see. If you fail and make us lose face, then we'll definitely thrash you to no end. While Autumn Breeze was ready to retaliate at any given moment, Gentle Wind took upon Su Feng's advice as she stepped toward the center. Hello, everyone. Gentle Wind waved her hand and flashed a graceful smile, causing the nearby players to nearly faint. Her actions were equivalent to a famous celebrity who suddenly greeted her beloved fans with a warm and graceful smile. One could just imagine how explosive the reaction would be in such a scene. I'm sure some of you are just here for fun, while some of you are anchoring for your respective guilds or teams. But I'm here to make an announcement first. My guild, Silver Wind, will achieve the first clear achievement, she announced, exuding an air of confidence. As expected, Gentle Wind is going to attempt the Scorched Caverns as well for the achievement. Harold Fist had already failed miserably, and he's still going to make another attempt once he finishes his preparation. Is this going to turn into a guild competition soon? Tyrant Fist versus Silver Wind. The rush for the first clear achievement. Seeing the players' reaction and how they believe she was competing against Harold Fist, Gentle Wind was once again dumbfounded by Su Feng's foresight. He had already predicted some would make a connection between the two and even instructed her how to respond to it. Could it be he's from the future? Just how can he predict so much? The player who mentioned the competition. What's her username? Gentle Wind kept her calm and asked. The player who made the comment fixed his posture and nodded his head. Nice to meet you, Guild Leader Gentle Wind. I'm One-Man Media, a swordsman class, and I wish to ask if you're trying to increase your guild's reputation by competing against Harold Fist through this dungeon clearing. One-Man Media questioned professionally, seemingly turning into a media reporter. One-Man Media, wasn't this the person who posted in the forum regarding the mysterious player ascending the second floor in the town hall? Gentle Wind was astonished to meet with this player here. After all, if it weren't for his forum post, she wouldn't have made it here and become acquainted with Lin Feng as well as his boss. Nevertheless, Gentle Wind composed herself rather quickly and smiled brightly. You've asked quite a good question, One-Man Media. However, I must correct one thing. I'm not competing against Harold Fist, given that we're not even in the same stage. I'm going to be clearing the Hell Mode difficulty.